Welcome everybody, it's the Fantasy Football Rapper here, and I wanted to go over something a lot of you guys are probably not gonna like, not gonna agree with. Maybe you drafted some of these overvalued running backs or were planning to, but I'm here to try and save you. Maybe if you drafted them, try to trade them, or if you were thinking about drafting them, just may want to look elsewhere. Okay. So let's get right into it, guys. The most overvalued running backs, beginning with the consensus number 5 pick, or at least that's what he is according to Fantasy Football Calculator. I'm talking about David Johnson. A lot of people are high on David Johnson. They figured Cliff Kingsbury, aerial attack, uses his running backs, in the passing game. Sure, that's all fine and dandy, but there's a flip side to this. Let's face it. David Johnson disappointed a lot of people last year. And I know he was, under Steve Wilkes, who didn't use him quite right, didn't use him how probably Cliff Kingsbury will use him. But if we take everything into account, David Johnson has not been the same guy since 2016 when he suffered that wrist injury. So that's over 2 years that David Johnson has been elite. Now, he was still an RB1 last year, and he was the RB8 or 9, depending if you were in standard or PPR, and that's all fine and dandy. And I think he can repeat those numbers again. But there's just too much talent at the running back position for me to take him 5 overall. Actually, in that 5 slot, I would probably lean towards somebody that's done it more recent, like Devontae Adams, like DeAndre Hopkins. I would even consider Juju Smith-Schuster at that spot because he's safe. If you're insistent on going running back, that's cool too, but there's still better options. Why not go with the younger player like Joe Mixon or Nick Chubb? He's got the clear way now. Now that Duke Johnson is suspended the first 8 games, can't practice with the team until then. They have the bye week. The earliest Kareem Hunt could come back is week 10. So any of those players I would take over David Johnson. Interesting fact. Out of the top 15 running backs last year for 2018, none of them were over the age of 26. Guess what age David Johnson is? 27. Now, he keeps in tremendous shape. It's not that big a deal for me. I do think he'll finish in the top 15. He's always been really healthy and durable, minus that wrist injury. But just be aware, top 5 for a coach. We don't know how his offense is going to be, how it's going to translate into the NFL. We've seen this before with college coaches, and they totally flame out. A guy that hasn't done it in 2 years, getting up there in age. This is going to be a throwing offense. So yes, if they use him in the passing game, that's great. But I don't see David Johnson getting a lot of carries. And if they don't use him in the passing game like we think they will, you see where I'm going with this? I'm just leery because I'm ultra conservative when it comes to my first pick. I want a slam dunk. I want a guy that I know and I could feel safe with, and I just think there's better options. Like I said, go safe. Devontae Adams is about as safe as you can get. He's going to get touchdowns with Rodgers throwing him the ball. He's also going to get targets as well. Another guy that super red flag, kind of a similar situation to David Johnson. He also hasn't done it in 2 years. I'm talking more so 2 calendar years, and I'm talking about the Jets' Le'Veon Bell. We still don't know if Le'Veon Bell could be the same guy outside of Pitt. Let's face it, everybody that Pitt puts in as a running back is an RB1. Dating back to Damien Williams when he subbed in for Bell when he was injured. And then last year we had Connor ball out. When Connor got injured, we had Jalen Samuels ball out. So are we really that confident that Bell could do this on another team? I think he's talented, don't get me wrong. But then we mix that with the Jets, whose offensive line is okay at best. A coach, Adam Gase, that's not known for producing RB1s. I could definitely see Ty Montgomery being a part of this offense, especially getting in the passing game. I've heard that they've been lining both of them up in the backfield. So all those are crazy red flags to me. To play such a vigorous sport like football and to come in, okay, after over 600 days since he last played in that playoff game in Pitt to now. And then if they do try to give him the volume, if they try and if they overwork him, that's even more of a concern because now you're dealing with a player that could get potentially injured. Those are, I don't know. Number 8, guys, why would you pick him over? Last time we saw Nick Chubb, when he became the starter, he was the number 6 best running back. Mixon was top 10 and missed 2 games and top 4 in rushing, and now he's got Zach Taylor coming into Cincinnati. Okay, McVay family tree. You know they're going to use him in the passing game. I think they're going to use him similar to the way they use Gurley in LA. Why not go with a younger player, a guy who's done it more recently? That's just me. Or take the receiver route, like I said with Gurley. Go with Adams, or if he's taken Hopkins, whichever one's taken, or if they're both taken, you could even go with Juju. Say what you want about Juju, but he's going to get a ton of targets, guys. It's just simple math. If you get more targets, you have more opportunities to score points. If you're getting 10 targets a game and your quarterback is completing them at 60 to 70%, well, guess what? That's 6 to 7 receptions. You're basically guaranteed every game. That's just an idea. It's just an idea, guys. Okay. Third running back I'm not that crazy about is the guy who replaced Bell, and that's James Conner. Look, James Conner was amazing last year. But again, if something were to happen to that Pittsburgh line, is James Conner really that amazing? Now you got the emergence of Jalen Samuels, who also looked really good last year. His coach, Eddie Faulkner, that coached him back in NC State, is now the running backs coach. They also said they're going to use, I wouldn't say a running back by committee, but they said they will use Jalen Samuels. Now that could be a good thing actually for Conner because his volume was ridiculous. And that's the main reason, honestly, that I'm worried about Conner is because he hasn't proven that he can stay healthy. He was injured 2 years ago. He got injured last year, and I hate to say this, he is a recovering cancer patient. You never fully beat cancer. It's called remission. That means the cancer could come back at any time. Again, guys, we're talking about the first round pick. Again, Juju, Chubb, Mixon, all these guys can still be available at the end of the first. Why take that risk with Conner, who, has another good running back there, injury histories? I think there's better options. Now, he could pan out if he gets, the similar volume and if he stays healthy. But to me, the risk is not worth the reward when, again, there's comparable players. Okay? Next guy on the list. He's probably the most polarizing player on this list. It's Gurley. You either love, where he's going because you think it's an absolute steal considering he was the number 1 player in fantasy football, or at least the number 1 running back last year, or you're like me and absolutely hate the situation. Anytime I hear the word degenerative, which honestly I had to look it up before that, but that means that the condition doesn't get better. It only gets worse. So you have arthritis in your knees. What's the most important body part on a running back? Their knees. And now you got a guy who had previous issues with the ACL. He had ACL surgery back in college. And last time we saw Gurley, guys, he was outplayed by CJ Anderson. And now we find out he's got arthritis, a degenerative condition. But you want to risk the top of the second, where he's going right now, or some people in the bottom of the first, you want to risk that on a guy with arthritic knees? Best case scenario, they said they're cutting back his volume. So if they cut back his volume, that means he'll probably be with, in that, again, I keep mentioning the same guys over and over and over. Mixon, Chubb, Dalvin Cook either. I know what you're thinking. Dalvin Cook coming off of ACL. But you know what? His condition is not degenerative. That means it's not going to get progressively worse. If it happens again, the ACL or something different, it's just bad luck. Gurley's, we know there's something there. And there's going to be something there throughout the whole season. And then at the end of the year, aren't you worried they might shut him down, if they're a playoff team or if they're not a playoff team? I don't think they will be, actually. So they might still shut him down because why, risk injuring your star player that you gave all this money to if you're not making the playoffs? Or if you are, why risk him to injury in the regular season? So either way, guys, it's not a good situation. They drafted Darrell Henderson, moved up to get him for a reason. And even if it's for the catches, the pass catching role, that's a big part of Gurley's game. So either way, guys, it's not a good situation. Last but not least, Damien Williams. Damien Williams, another player, 27. Already told you the stat. And he's never been the guy, quite frank. I liked him. I thought he looked wonderful. He was was he the top running back during the fantasy playoffs? He was definitely top 3. I think Derrick Henry was top 1. And yeah, that's all fine and dandy. He fits into that system. He's a good pass catcher. He's fast, all that good stuff. But lots of red flags again. Already dealing with a hamstring injury. Andy Reid has come out and said they are going to be a running back by committee. Carlos Hyde's there. Not worried about him. But there is a young man that I am worried about by the name of Darwin Thompson. This guy looked amazing in one preseason game. I know it's preseason, but this guy was breaking tackles, catching passes, dodging tackles. He just looked really, really good. He's really, really strong, and he fits that system to a T. So I think Williams could be a value if he ends up slipping, but the bottom of the second, I would not take him over Kerryon Johnson, over Aaron Jones, who have similar risk because of the injuries, but they have way more upside because they will be the guy in their respective offenses. And they have great play callers that cater to the running backs. Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, Darrell Belleville in Seattle. They both have a history of always producing top rushing offenses wherever they go. So it's very important that, you play it safe those first 2 rounds, because if you miss, it's very, very hard. After the first couple of rounds, everybody's pretty much a crapshoot. So even if you're missing out on some upside, I would play a little more conservative. Take your upside, take your, home run swings later in the 8th, 9th, 10th. There you could go for upside. But in the beginning, just get players that are more likely to make it through the season. All right. And as always, guys, if you have questions, comment down below. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like, a sub. I really do appreciate it, guys. And until next time.